You're listening to the Establishing Your Empire Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs, creatives, and future business owners to pursue their passions, grow their organizations, and build their empire. My name is Daran Herrman, and creatively, I'm best known for my photography. But business-wise, my claim to fame is growing a company from $15K per month in online sales to breaking the $1 million a month barrier. And I'm sitting down with interesting people to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how they have established their empires. I'm here with Bree Bagwell, a good friend and an amazing musician, artist.
You better say good friend.
That's right. Great friend.
There we go.
So Bree, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, well, it keeps changing, right? I just about to enter my 10th year of having a full band in the Texas country music scene, which is crazy. And before that, I played acoustic for a while. I'm from New Mexico, and I've been playing live music now for 18 years.
Wow,
yeah.
18 years.
So I guess I'm a singer-songwriter. I graduated from UT, so I did that too. But mainly just a performing musician over 150 days a year now.
And how many albums?
I'm like 4.5. I have one that I hope no one ever hears. I released a record, Band from Santa Fe, in 2011, and then an EP in 2013, When a Heart Breaks in 2015, and In My Defense just came out 2018.
How did you get started? Like, how do you become a musician, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, I've been singing ever since I was young. My family is very musical. My mom plays lap steel. My dad plays guitar. My aunts sing harmony. I mean, it was kind of a natural thing for me. And I found an old piano in my garage and an old keyboard. And I taught myself kind of how to play. And my parents were like, shoot, maybe we should. So they bought me an old church piano. And that's how I taught myself how to write songs and play music. And my brothers and I started a band. I was 14 and they were 21. I was playing in the honky tonks at 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was like, not really sure that she should let me do that, but
until she saw you on stage, and then she's like, okay,
and
maybe.
then she's drinking, my brothers are drinking, and then I drive everyone, to Waffle House and then home or whatever.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So, all right, you were super young playing. Did you start writing songs at that time, or?
Yeah, I think my first song, I was 13. It was called My Most Perfect Night, and it was a love song back in the day when I believed in that kind of stuff.
Oh,
no, I'm
come
joking.
On now.
I'm totally joking. And I started writing, and started playing my own songs live at 14, and that was when I kind of got hooked on that, because I was playing a lot of covers, but I was also getting to play original songs at such a young age, so that was fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. Mm-hmm. So let's take me back. So your very first CD, like, how did that feel to have your own physical album?
Yeah, I think it changes because when you first do an album, you're like, nothing sucks. Everything's amazing. You're just like so happy and so excited, and then the older you get, like this last record, the day before it came out, I was like super second guessing everything and really in my own head about it. And, so I think it's so fun when you're young and you don't really know any better, I guess. I always tell artists, like, enjoy that, because now, I'm texting Willie Brown with Reckless Kelly, and he's like, oh no, you're going to second guess every record for the rest of your life. That's just how it happens when you grow and change. So,
what's your favorite show you've ever played, or festival, or any of that stuff?
Yeah. Well, I got to headline Green Hall for the first time last year, and I was hoping to sell it out because I would have, I think, been the first independent female to ever do that. We didn't sell it out, but we got 550 tickets sold. So, and everyone was singing. It was like the first show where everyone was kind of singing along because they were really all truly Bree fans. So everyone knew all the music, and my parents drove in from New Mexico, and so that was my favorite one.
Super fun.
Yeah.
So, and for those who don't know, Green Hall, that's a super cool little town. It's a super fun little place, and a honky tonk bar. George Strait's played there. Garth Brooks just played there, which is crazy.
So crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That would have been a fun show.
It has no air conditioning. True story.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. No.
Yeah. Only beer and wine, no liquor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a true honky tonk.
That's fun. Mm-hmm. Super wood floors. That's
yes.
great. So what musician do you kind of look up to? Like, What's the...
Yeah. Well, of course, Miranda.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whenever I first saw Miranda, my mom pulled me out of my bedroom and was like, you got to see this girl. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I want to do that. Like, that's what I want to do. And even though I started out kind of more Miranda than I am now, I think, that was the first person that like I modeled my songwriting and my singing and my live performing after. And I'm very blessed to have been able to open for her and meet her. And she was so nice. You almost don't want to meet your heroes in case they are rude. And she was so amazing. So thankful for that.
So what advice would you give somebody who wants to enter the world of rock and roll?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think honestly, someone told me early on, it was Eli Young Band. They were like, man, we didn't start selling tickets until 7 years into being a band.
Right.
I think persistence is the key in this industry, and just not ever giving up. So if you're not willing to really kind of stick it out for the long haul, then it's not for you.
And so, okay, all these years, what has helped you keep going, like year after year, show after show, album after album?
It's definitely a roller coaster, because those nights that you have those bad nights and nobody comes, or you don't make any money, or I don't know, the band breaks up or whatever, it can be truly devastating. But I really feel like, at least for me, like God in the universe puts like that one magical show just when you need it.
Sure.
And for me, that's like a good listening room, or I don't know, like a green hall night or something that it keeps you going when you're like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. And those things do come. They don't come every night, but they come frequently enough to keep me going, at least.
That's great to hear. So, so what is your band situation now, right? So, obviously another changeover, which, and I think a lot of people think that's crazy, but I'm like, how often do you keep the same job for 4 or 5 years, for 2 years?
Right.
Everybody switches, and I think it's very common, but so anything that you want to talk about in that situation?
Yeah, that's interesting, because sometimes when you switch your band, people perceive that as like, oh, she's falling apart or whatever.
Right.
And you're over here like, man, I'm making these great improvements. And I had my first guitar player, Nathan, for 7 years.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It's
7 years.
Yeah. And my first band, I think, for 3. And my last 2 guys that I just switched out, they were with me over 2 years each. So, and that's a long time in a band. So it's hard, because you have to really get the right fit. And a lot of times we're grinding like on the road, and we've started to use a bus occasionally, but like we're in a van out 200 days a year. Like that is really tough on anybody. So I tell people like turnover is just part of it, and it sucks, but it's just.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, which I've done the van life with you for like a week and a half, and that was way too much for me.
Yeah.
Going all the way from Austin, Texas to Steamboat, Colorado. But walk me through a day on the road, like just the average normal day. Like what's that look like? I'm talking about like the process through the day, like when you wake up, how that works, show prep, the whole thing.
Yeah, well, like now a typical day is going to look like, I can already foresee it. Friday, we have to leave at 6 a.m., drive to north of Fort Worth in the van with the band and trailer to meet the bus.
And how long does that take, since you have a van and trailer?
Probably at least 3 hours, maybe 4.
Not terrible, but
not terrible, but not
still
fun at 6 a.m.
Yeah, still.
Because I have a show Thursday night, so I'll be getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, maybe. So we get to the van call about 10. We'll jump in the bus. I will go take a nap in the back while our bus driver drives us to Lubbock. And then from then on, it's like, we're going to get to sound check, and my drummer has to set up first. I will find a nearby gym or a hotel gym or something that I can just sneak into or pay to use, or put it on Facebook, or try to find somewhere to work out. And I only have like the time from when we get there, and then they're going to need me at soundcheck eventually. So
that's an interesting process to, I'm always a big fan with working out, is to create some kind of consistent schedule or something that's convenient. You really don't have either, except that it sounds like you say the trigger for you is, okay, we're going to pull in. I have from that time until when they have to do the vocal sound check, or
exactly,
or your sound check part. So, which is, how long is that usually? Is that 2 hours, 4 hours? Like,
yeah, maybe like 1.
Yeah, and you have to still, and this is a foreign town. because it's not never your
Right.
hometown hardly. So
Might have to Uber.
yeah, sure. So that's some. So if people are thinking it's hard to work out when you're in your own house and you just got to go down the street, think about going to a different town and having a very short period of time and having to pay Uber to get there. It's pretty impressive.
Right. Or like being in the green room trying to just, do like a HIIT workout or something. But for me, it's like if I don't work out when I'm on the road 2/3 of my life. So if I don't do it, then I never do it.
Yeah.
And you've known me for a long time. I think I've lost about 15 or 20 pounds since I started. It's just like a way of life now, and it sucks. We all try to eat healthy.
It's tough on the road.
It's really hard.
Especially in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's like Subway's your best option,
Oh,
if
God.
that.
If I never had to smell a Subway again, like the smell of it even now.
Oh, I know.
We
And
eat
it has
so
a
much Subway.
And it has a specific smell.
Right. And now when we have the bus, we can take meals, which is interesting. We try to like pre-plan
Sure.
more. So that's helping. It's a crazy thing. It's such a grind. And then like this weekend, our load-in's at 5 and we play at 9. So I'll have to like work out, sound check, rinse off, get ready, and be on stage all within a 4-hour time frame. So
It's tough.
it's crazy. And then we'll get back on the bus after it's over, and we're driving overnight back to Austin.
And this is this Friday. So
Just
this
Friday.
This is just your like. This isn't like a assumption. This is what's happening like in a couple days. from
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
That's crazy. So what's your favorite workout to do? Like if you could do one, like what do you like?
I love cycling. I'm into spin class.
Mm-hmm.
I go to Love here in Austin, and I met a girl who knows your wife actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah, at my
Fun.
spin class the other day, and I love to go, but it almost kills me. I don't like cardio, but it's to the beat of the music, so it makes me feel, musician.
fun. Yeah, right.
It's fun.
Makes sense.
You can dance.
So walk me through like let's talk about songwriting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about somebody who just wants to be a songwriter. What advice would you give them to get started?
Yeah, well, unfortunately for me, and I think a lot of people, like I have to force myself to be creative, which sucks. I feel like
I think that's how everyone is. I think it's a myth that it just like now it does come to you sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've also learned for myself is when I feel that, like don't like do something else or pick up your phone and get busy or watch TV, whatever, go. Like
Embrace it.
When it does come, you better go right now because it's fleeting and it won't be back. It doesn't always come back for a while.
Right. Totally. And I think, when I got signed by Sony, I'd never been forced to write, but I would go, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and write a song or write 2 songs. And now I do this songwriting group. I actually just got out of it this last week, but I write 1 song a week religiously. And that doesn't sound like a lot. It is so difficult to do. And I've done that for over a year now. So that's what 50, I probably have like 60 songs in the last year that I've written, which is crazy. So I say, force yourself to be creative. And for me, that's being a part of like an accountability group. And I think that's the best thing I've ever done. My whole last record was written that way. So I never would have had any of those songs, or maybe I would have had 1 or 2.
Right. And I think this is a very interesting point here. That I think a lot of people say, okay, well, I've written 5 songs. It's time for an EP. I've written 10. It's time for an album. You just said something that you've written 50 or 60 over the last year. Like, I mean, that doesn't mean you're making 4 albums. Maybe none of those were going to make the album, right?
Totally.
Which is very interesting.
Or, with a producer, a good producer, he or she will help you narrow that to, not all 50 or 60 are great. And like you said, maybe none of them are great, but she can really pick out, like what we did for my last record is I had all these songs that I'd written with Sony. I'd had like 150 songs I had written while I was there under contract.
Wow.
And we were about to go into the studio and she was like, you know what? No, these songs sound like you were writing with a good co-writer 5 years ago, which is true. So we sat down and I started writing in that group and I wrote pretty much all new songs for this last album. And they're current and they're very me. And then we took them and we fine-tuned them until we thought they were perfect.
So is there any truth to the song? Like, if you were a cowboy, is that your kind of target audience that you're wanting to, like when you're dating, is that what you want? Like,
that's a very funny story because, I have so many songs and my producer was like, hey, I want to play you this song. No pressure. just give it a listen. And that's the only song on the album I did not write.
I think it's great though. I think it's kind of, I think a lot of musicians only want to, do their own songs. And I understand that there's some pride there, and you've written 150 songs. It's like, why would I want to go buy somebody else's song or work with somebody else's song? But it also shows a different range that you can take what somebody else have done, make it your own, change it up. I mean, and there's still such a huge process in that. It's not like that's given to you and then it just you take 40 seconds in the studio and it's done. You still got to do all the arrangements, got to figure out how you're going to do it. And it's just what everybody else does too. I mean, it's a very common to have somebody else's, because a lot of people are just good songwriters and they don't have the live aspect.
Totally.
Or even the presence of an album. But
yeah, and I think it shows maturity to be like, hey, I don't think I'm the best songwriter in the world. I think there's other great songwriters. Or like, if you look at like A House That Built Me by Miranda, like she didn't write that, but I mean, she broke down. She was so upset. I mean, just emotionally connected to that song. And when I heard If You Were a Cowboy, I was like, give me that. Like that's me, even though I didn't write it. And it's something I could never write. It's a really cool chord progression. I mean, not never write, but something I've never written. And my audience I knew would love it, and I just had to have it.
Yeah, and I think that's something like, it gives. I think your albums always need to have a variety of music too. So using somebody else as a songwriter, I think there's a lot of pros. I mean, obviously it's very enjoyable to have your own music, but to me, if it's good art, I don't care who made it, and who wrote it or co-wrote or whatever, as long as it's more true to you. And that obviously, I mean, that song there, like like I know you, so I'm like, yeah, this totally makes sense.
Yeah, right.
It totally makes sense.
And it's anthemy, and I wouldn't say I'm really good at writing like anthemy, like that's not really my thing.
But it's fun.
It's so fun.
It's fun.
And so I found a song that I can do that with. And now actually the Hallmark Channel was interested in that song. I don't know if that's still a thing, but that might happen, which would be cool.
That'd be super cool.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, but it's just even interesting. It's fun that they're even interested. That means that it's not just you that likes it, right?
Yeah.
Which we're always so worried about our own art, right? We're our own worst critic.
Ugh.
So let's talk about that. How do you deal with that? I mean, not everybody's gonna love your show. Not everybody's gonna love your music. Not everybody's gonna love their perception of you. Whether because everybody thinks they know who people are, but so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's always tough because we always talk about like at the merch table, you'll get 50 great, amazing comments and then like one bad one, and then it can ruin your whole night or it stays with you forever. I mean, I could probably sit here and tell you every bad thing somebody has ever said about me because I'll never forget it, And I also think someone's like, oh, it's the music business. You have to have thick skin. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm so sensitive. That's why I write songs, because I'm emotional. And so it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess. I have to like talk about it and get it out and be like, this happened. And of course, my close circle of people around me are like, hey, that's like you said, their perception. It's not true. And you're a rock star and we love you. And okay, great. Like for me, it's the circle of people around me that I can always turn to for like validity, I guess.
It's funny. One negative comment can just replay in your head over and over.
Right. Like I just put out this video of Cheat on Me, like a live video. And, someone was like, I'm sorry, but those lyrics aren't for me. And it's like, why would you even comment or be like that to me is so odd. But I know that like, that's people's outlet in their own way, and if they want to use it for negativity, then that's not somebody I need to even let bother me. Like,
right.
I want to use my internet power for positivity.
Right, and that's a mature way of looking at it. Like, look, it's just you're obviously not somebody I want to be around anyway.
Right.
So
right.
It still sits in there. Yeah. So okay. You've been on it for over a decade, almost two. Mm-hmm. What does success look like for you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot because success is like sometimes in some people's eyes, like if you're not Carrie Underwood, you're not successful, or you know what I mean? And in the business for me, there's all these different markers of success. And actually what I consider successful has been these weird things that have happened to me that have been in my heart more important than anything else. Like we were on a cruise and Pat Green was like, hey, I got to talk to you. And I was like, uh-oh. He's like, I just want to tell you how proud I am and what you've done for the scene. And you got to keep at it because the scene needs you. and I was like sobbing, to me, that's a big measure of success. So it may not be that I'm selling, a million records, but one of my heroes is treating me like I'm an important part of the music scene.
Which I'd have to agree. So I think some people might not understand what that means in a lot of ways. Besides being a very successful artist and having powerful music, there's not many females, not just in Texas country, in country in general. So I think that could be intimidating, but why do you stay in Texas country? Why don't you go to Nashville? Like, why do you keep doing this very difficult task if it's kind of stacked against you?
Yeah, no, totally. And a lot of people don't really know how hard I did try in Nashville. And I went around to like multiple managers and record labels, and I had pretty much all of them tell me no. And a couple of them told me I was too old. That's like a real thing. One of them was like, I can't pour $50,000 into you and then you decide to get married and have a baby in 6 months, which
hopefully
it's so offensive. No, they
that's
did.
Like totally,
and that was, probably 5 years ago. So I wasn't even as old as I am now.
Wow.
So I did get told no a lot in Nashville, which I could have stayed and tried harder or tried different ways. But for me, I was already making a living doing it here.
And
so
a lot of fans here.
Right.
A lot of people like you here.
And I didn't want to like quit and have to go to Nashville to, quit what I've built here. Even though some people in Nashville really shrug it off. They're like, oh, if you want to be a superstar, you got to give that up. It's like, well, this has been my dream. I've been a fan. I've been playing Texas country music in a bar since I was 14. All I wanted to do was play Texas country music. And some people will shrug that off as a small dream or be like, we don't want to work with her. Her dreams are too small. That was another thing that was actually said to me. And so it's like, it's so offensive, but I couldn't quit, and I don't have a lot of money to just quit and go to Nashville and try to make it. You got to go wait tables and hustle. And I'm like, why would I do that when I can play live music every weekend?
Well, and that's the thing. And when you're booking 150 shows a year, which to me just sounds a little crazy.
It is.
So, obviously something's working. So what do you think gets you to the next step in your ladder of success, whatever that means?
Yeah, because I do feel like we're on the verge of something bigger. We haven't quite broke this next level. We've always, and I was talking to some friends about that, because it's like, I feel like we're close. And they're like, I feel like you're close too. But what is close? Is it 5 months? Is it 5 years? Is it, because I thought this last record was going to be what did it.
I think it's one song sometimes.
Sometimes.
And for those who haven't seen Brie Bagwell play live, that is dialed in. So, I've seen you for the years and years and years. Like, that is ready to go, right?
Thank you.
I think that one's wrapped up, bow on it, ready to go. Have such a catalog of songs to play too, and it's kind of like, it might take another 10 years. It might take another 2 days, whatever it be.
It's so,
you're trying to hit a home run,
Yeah. And, I don't want to play at this pace, like you said, forever. But I'm not tired of it right now. So I want to like push until I'm like, you know what? Okay. I'm a little, 150 might be too much. I would like to, of course, like play less and make more. That's the, isn't that what everyone,
sure.
Play music less. But it's coming slowly. Like, our money is going up and our dates are going down. So it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And of course we're getting more sponsorships and we're getting more things like that that allow me to not have to play so many shows, because I think I could do all these other really great things, but it's like, man, I only have 2 or 3 days off the road, and that's just enough to catch my breath, do laundry, unpack, repack, and turn around and do it again.
So tell me about how you structure your music business, because you do it a little differently than some people. Forgive me, is it Brie Bagwell LLC?
Music LLC, yeah.
So walk us through how that is set up.
Yeah. Well, now it's me, and then I have a manager and a booking agent. So they take their percentages. But I own everything from the merchandise to the masters of the record. Sony did own a lot of my songwriting and will forever from the time that I was with them. But I have, I pay my band per show. So everything else is pretty much just money that I can take and turn around. And now it's I am the sole decision maker in pretty much everything. I consult with my manager, of course, but it's such a hard business to be in because right now I'm looking at, I have this chunk of change. Do I want to put it into, now there's things like streaming promoters to get you onto these playlists and these, so now like the business model keeps changing. Like, do I really want to put this chunk of change into a record when no one listens to records or really buys records anymore? Or do I want to take this and put it into pushing my online streaming? Or do I want to take it and invest it in a bunch of merch? Or do I want to go buy a new van because my second van's almost done? It's fun being the sole decision maker, but it's also really challenging.
Well, it's a lonely island too.
Yeah,
trust me. I've being my own decision maker as well.
Yeah,
it's the same pains whether you own a marketing agency, a photography business, or you're a musician on the road. So a couple things in there too. So okay, say the show doesn't turn out the way it's not as big as it wanted to be. Whatever.
Yeah.
They didn't promote. Whatever happened, or it's raining out. So your band still gets the same, they get paid.
Mm-hmm. It happened to us on Friday because we played in Houston, but it was the World Series game. So like nobody came and it was a huge venue. So yeah, that's one of those nights that I take a hit. They get a paycheck. But like, thank goodness I have really nice guys. I mean, they were really upset. They didn't give me any money back, of course, but they were sympathetic. Yeah,
but they were upset as well.
That's, for sure.
Yeah,
it's nice.
And so this is something that it's interesting is like you have to do all this creative stuff and the pressure there and performance, as well as balancing working out and all this. But then there also you have a full different side. What was the decision process of you, instead of like going in with 4 other people, right, and say, okay, well, this band owns everything.
Oh, I see.
So like, how did that initially, when your probably first album or whenever it happened, what was that thought process like?
I think it's because I was just playing acoustic. So when I did my first record, I didn't have a band. And so it was all my songs. I made this first record and I still didn't have a band. But I was on a TV show that gave me the leverage to start a band. So when they all came in, it was like, hey, these are my songs. This is going to be my show. I did give them a name because I love it. And I thought it was cute. And then it turned into this really cool thing. They're called the band, BANNED. And so, but now still I write all the songs. I decide where we record them. I get the musicians I want to play on my record, which is not always my band. And I keep all the merch money, and
but for better or worse, you also have to buy all the merch,
right? And
then sling the merch.
I tell people that all the time because I had.
If you have a shirt that doesn't sell, that's on you.
And I'm like, when we had a good show once, and one of the band members was like, "Oh, that private party, is she gonna give us more money?" And I'm like, well, do you want me to show you the 8 shows last month that I lost money on?
Right.
Or I just pay all the gear insurance and the trailer insurance and the van insurance there's a lot that goes into it. But most of the time, most band members are appreciative because they can come in, do their job very well, and then go home and do something else.
But you're also at a spot, and I think you always have been since the CMT's Next Superstar gave you some leverage to where you get professional band people, that understand the business a little bit, have been around. They enjoy that. Hey, I can rely that I'm getting paid X dollars. It's pre-negotiated. It's already it's it's not like a up and down wave, right? I mean, it might be because of the amount of shows, but at least they know if they're doing 14 shows this month, they have a certain amount of money coming in. Yeah,
right. And I've talked to guys that have bands, like some of our very good mutual friends. And they're like, it's really tough. We might make $30 on one show, like each. And I'm like, my guys, they treat me really good and I treat them really good. And I think to me, that's the best way. But then you look at like Randy Rogers, him and his band, they all are equal in it, which is fascinating to me. I guess I like to make all the decisions and write all the songs myself.
There you go. Yeah. For better or worse, you take all the responsibilities, but you got to make all the decisions.
Yeah, but both ways can work.
So what's your favorite memory related to this last album that you've put out?
Actually, this is weird. It's again, like, I don't know if it's like a selfish thing, what sticks out to me and whatnot, but Willie Braun from Reckless Kelly texted me that he loved this record, and it was the reason that they put me on the Braun Brothers reunion in Idaho. I'd never played it. Is there a dog barking? You don't get that
sorry,
dog.
Guys.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And he said that my record was very Hemingway-esque, the way that I wrote it, which I thought, man, I really tried to write this record well, and that was just a really good moment for me. Yeah, because it didn't completely change my life. I will say it improved our ticket sales and stuff, but it didn't. I expected this record, I don't know, I was hoping it was just going to completely change everything. It was going to be the game changer.
Which I think you have to have that. That's a motivation to create it. I mean, and spend all the money to make a record and be. I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is it's very expensive to not only make a record, but you have to promote it too.
Yes.
So it's like you have to have some of that mentality. Mm-hmm. And some people would say, oh, maybe that's a little crazy that you're literally spending a ton of money up front that for a possibility of stuff running in. It's very similar to what like an entrepreneur would have to do, or a business owner, or somebody who runs a store. I mean, there isn't the guarantee, but there's no way to hit a home run without trying, right?
Right. And you're actually, now they're calling records investments, because you are never going to sell, not never, but the chances of you selling enough records to recoup what you paid for it. I recorded this record in Nashville with 18 musicians, plus the expenses of traveling back and forth in one of the best studios. I got the best mixing guy to mix it, which I had no idea that he was going to charge that much to mix it. But it sounds great. It really does. But that I would have to sell so many records to pay for that. So it's just an investment in my future career.
That's part of the portfolio of being a musician.
Right.
Is, you have the records, which help the live shows, which help the merch.
Right.
And then which help, the next piece I want to get into is how you make money doing sponsorships, social media. Like, what was your very first non-musical paycheck that was outside, that sponsor-esque?
Yeah, because I was getting a lot of like free stuff, but I wasn't getting, you have to get to a place where you can actually get money. Like right now, it's people come to me all the time with like, we'll trade you clothes for posts, or we'll trade you this for this. And I'm like, I don't really need that anymore. I need money. Yeah. And it took me a long time to get there.
And that might sound bad, but literally this is a part of the business now. Like if you don't leverage this, it would be kind of ridiculous. Like, because I think a lot, they were talking about Messi, the soccer player. He makes more from Instagram than he does from his contract. So it's just like it used to be with commercials on TV, but now the commercials are on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. Right. And it is cool when it's done correctly. And I don't want to ever like overexpose myself. I have a bunch of friends with clothing boutiques that give me free clothes. And I've of course tag them and post about it, but I'm not looking for that. That's just what's in my life. But now I'm like, well, now we got Rebecca Creek whiskey, which that has been 7 or 8 years. That was probably my first one.
And I've seen and had to drink the whiskey that has been around. Brie, it's always around. So that is definitely a product she uses. Yeah. The band uses.
It's always around.
It might be gone by the time you come around.
We drank it on a mountain in the freezing cold on top of a mountain once. So
it's a fun photo shoot we did in Steamboat Springs.
Yes, you have to check it out. But it's to me, that was like a thing where they were young and I was young and we grew together. So now they're huge, and like I've grown a lot, and we still have this great partnership. We have contracts and we made it formal. But now I just got a Karbach beer sponsorship, which is,
I saw that.
Yeah,
that stuff's awesome too.
I love, look at me being spoiled, looking like an alcoholic with beer and whiskey, but and I have a jewelry sponsorship now, which we do differently. That's the kind of thing where I get either a percentage, a commission basically, and he gives me a bunch of stuff to sell at merch. So you can go to my merch table and buy a t-shirt and a pair of amazing earrings.
Are those?
Yeah, these are them. Yeah. And he lets me sell them at a major discount at my merch table, but I'm keeping the profit. So that helps me tremendously. And that's an interesting way to do a sponsorship instead of like,
so I don't even call that a sponsorship. That's just that's literally getting inventory and selling it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But sponsorship's the easiest way to put it in there. But I think it's a great way of taking the business side again, of sitting there and say, okay, what do I like?
Right.
And I have people coming to a spot, just like if you had a retail location, it would be stupid to not have a storefront, right? Which you have the merch table already. You're already going to shows. People already enjoy your music and who you are. So why not? And I think a lot of people want to be a part of that. Like, they see Brie wearing those earrings,
yes.
They want the earrings, right?
Exactly. And I had like this great idea. I mean, if I could ever make it work, but I wanted to be able, because people always wanted my boots. So we were trying to remember where we could click and you could buy my boots. But the problem is a lot of the stuff that I wear is like custom, but I still every night I'm like, if you want these, if you forgot Valentine's Day, like you need to go over there and buy your lady these earrings that I have on. She will love them. And it's, it's just so much about like all the things that I want to do are so centered around making money to be able to do what I want to do. It's not like I'm like, all I care about is money. It's like, no, everything in this business is so expensive.
Yeah, I think what you should do is replace the word money with revenue.
There we go.
Because that's what it is.
Right.
So at the end of the day, this is all revenue for a business. And it is, it goes into LLC, but a lot of people will think that it's, going straight to you, which it can when you pay yourself. But a lot of times it's got to go to, like you said, the insurance and X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. And I also don't think it's a negative to sit there and say, let's say you were making $14 million a year. Why would that be wrong, right?
That's true.
As long as you're providing value to people and they're willing to pay for it. And in fact, that would be better because that meant you provided value to more people. Or a bigger value to more to the same.
I love that. And I don't know why sometimes we're all like that. And I read the book, and it's like we have all these negative connotations associated with money, and that's so wrong. And it puts it in the universe that it's this bad thing, and it's not. And
money gives you power to do stuff.
Yes.
You can create more music. You can take days off. You can pay musicians.
Right. I can take that tour bus every weekend.
I've been in that van. I don't know how you do it.
I know. And this bus has been such a game changer, but it's, I'm paying way more than I would pay for the van. But it's like sometimes when you have to make more, you find a way to make it work.
The back against the wall.
Yeah.
Idea. It does work.
We're going to make it work because I have to have this.
Have to. Yeah, I know that.
Even for my dog, because she has, I'm usually having to find a sitter for her or whatever. So she lives her best life in the tour bus.
Oh, I'm sure.
I know. She loves it.
But it does. Dogs always make life so much better and happier.
On the road, for sure.
Oh, everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
So let's say, so how does a sponsor contact you? Do you contact them? Like what happens there? And how could somebody who wants to be, not even if they're in the music business, how could they, and say they have a following for whatever, how could they get, how can that happen?
Yeah. I've been really lucky because this guy came up to me at Green Hall with this Texas shaped basket full of Rebecca Creek and said, Brie Bagwell, I want to be your whiskey, which is one of my songs. Yes. I want to be your whiskey.
Fun.
And I was like, you creepy? No, like, what is this? And we laugh about that still. So I was approached by them. And now I'm approached because of just my sheer numbers. People approach me all the time. But I think, man, there is no harm in asking. And two, if I would have been reaching out, finding a company like Rebecca Creek that was young and willing to grow with you, I think that's a really cool strategy too. I don't know if I would have gone after Bud Light when I was brand new, but you. But even then, they
would give you some money, but not. Rebecca Creek promotes you,
right? And a younger, maybe craft distillery would be willing to work with you more and do cool things, and you have direct contact. So even a Carbach, they are huge. Of course, they're huge, but they are in Texas. And I went there and I met him and we drank a beer together. And of course, I think being genuine about it. We talk about this a lot, me and you. But I don't endorse anything that I don't love. I've had offers. I've had money offers from from really big names that I'm like, man, you couldn't pay me enough to drink that or wear that or rock that or whatever.
Right. So. Sure. And so it sounds like to me that, to align yourself with something that you enjoy or like, and that might be smaller, but it's best for the long run,
right?
Not just for like, 2 seconds. And that I think it's a part of your kind of style because you have been around for a long time. You're not going anywhere.
Right.
So you also understand, like, is this going to look good for me the next year, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah. If you're switching, I mean, I've had offers to switch whiskeys and it's like, hey, like loyalty for me goes a long way. And how good does it look to my people on Instagram if I'm switching around all the time?
Right.
It looks
sure.
bad.
Although I like to switch my whiskeys. I do it all the time.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to just give you trouble.
Yeah. I love it.
So
I'll drink anything free. No, I'm just kidding.
that might be
not
some truth
anything.
To
Yeah. Maybe
right.
when I was 20.
Right.
One.
Let's talk about when you're 2021. So I think when you're talking about your starts, like, let's talk about like from being professional to not being professional. Meaning, like, I guess maybe when you started, you were before your first album. Like,
right.
Talk about those days. So because I think a lot of people that might be interested in, like, okay, well, I like to play music, but how do I do this? Like,
right.
And a lot of them will be nervous and scared or whatever it would be. So
yeah, I had a big conversation with this guy on the cruise the other day, and he was like, man, I just can't get out of these 3 to 4 hour restaurant acoustic gigs. And, how do you get to do what you do? And I said, dude, do you not think that I did those? I did every 3 hour and 4 hour long restaurant acoustic gigs.
Wow.
Early on. And I would load up my own speakers, drive myself, play the 3 hour gig, load up my speakers, drive back home and unload my speakers into my apartment. I mean, I did that for so long. And I think people see me now and assume that I didn't. And so I feel like the need to remind people of that, because it's like, hey, no, this happened. Don't you dare growl. So I think part of like paying your dues, I think, is a real thing. It's not just something that like you have to pay your dues. No, you normally do. It's very, very rare that you don't. And if you don't, good for you. I mean, good luck. That's amazing.
I think that's like one in the
right.
person who wins like a show or something that gets lucky. Like that,
right.
that like doesn't happen. It's
right.
winning the lottery, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So just keep going, keep. And I also think that makes you a better live player.
That's a great point, because I really feel like all the jokes and all the happy hour songs and all the beer songs and, all of that came from having to play those happy hour gigs at Mother Egan's.
Right.
When I first started, like you kind of learn what keeps people drinking, what keeps people happy. And
so who has been the most important person in your life?
Oh my goodness.
Overall.
That is crazy. I know my instincts are like my parents, but they're not just like supportive, like they are beyond supportive. They've helped me so much, and they are totally invested in my songwriting and my craft. And when people are like, when are you going to get a real job? My parents are like, this is her real job. My dad's like, do you want to see her taxes? She's making, like, has a business, like, yeah. And they're very proud of what I've done.
Employees, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I like did my taxes this year, and obviously whatever you make, you spend in this business. So, but my gross was impressive for what, and it's like, man, this is really a business. But I think being able to have like that stability, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my parents there to listen to every song and support the accomplishments and be there when I cry, and that would be that.
Yeah, and I've seen them around so many different times at shows and stuff. Yeah. I mean, not only are they supportive, but I think they enjoy it.
I think they do too. I mean, they grew up around music, and so they love music.
Yeah, and plus it's like, oh, we got to see Brie work, which, she's playing in QS, fine.
Right, I guess we'll go to Green Hall and drink beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do want to talk about something, and feel free if we don't want to, but about Kylie Rae Harris.
Yeah.
So how did you react when you heard about her passing?
I told you, Miranda's mom, Bev Lambert, has always been like, she would be my next answer after my parents. She's been so supportive and found me singing on a bar stool and helped me since then. But she called me at like 9 a.m., which is, odd. And I was actually driving the van and driving my band up to the bus. And so I was in the driver's seat, and she said, "Baby, I have some bad news." And I knew it wasn't going to be good, but I never thought it could be something like that. So pulled over, full on cry. Of course, my band was like freaking out. They didn't know what happened, and I couldn't explain it because I was just hyperventilating. And it still, 2 months later, doesn't feel real. She was such a great, amazing person and songwriter, and we miss her so much, all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know her near as well as many people, but I've been around her plenty and hung out, and just always big smiles. That's my always. That was my memory. Obviously, when something tragic happens, you kind of have some stuff burn in. But it was my memory before that. It was just always a good, always big smile, big voice.
Yes,
she has a huge voice. So how are you dealing with it now?
Well, I have my good days and bad days, but I was talking to a bunch of our friends on a group chat, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not dealing with this well. Like, I'm still really upset about it. I still break down and cry frequently. And it's not just me. Nobody is, because I think too, there's a lot to be said about, like, we all drive late at night.
You're always a little nervous of that anyway. It's like, please, give me the driverless cars, please. Can't wait for those.
I agree, because it's so dangerous out there. And how many times I've driven tired, or just after a show when I was just probably not there, and then the chance of that other little girl in the other car that was killed, that's also equally as tragic, of course. Like, oh my gosh, how sad. And the suddenness of it has just been really hard to swallow. Like, you still can't believe you're not going to see that person again. It's just weird.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And I think you should grieve over it. There's it's a celebration of somebody's life, and it's very difficult because it's in your circle, not only of your profession, but also your friends. So it's double gone.
I'm such a fan of hers. I told somebody, even if I didn't know her, I would be devastated because I'm a fan of her. And then we got to all sing at her funeral, and that was tough. But it was like 8 of us girls on stage.
So I'm going to read something from her song 20 Years From Now, which is very interesting, of a songwriter and almost prophesizing this happening, which is super intense, but it also makes you, I'm not a songwriter myself, but it makes you almost like proud that somebody could use the English language so well for something, and just so it intensifies now. But you deserve, and this is she wrote for her daughter. You deserve nothing less than happiness, and so do I. 20 years from now, my prayer is that somehow you'll forgive all my mistakes and be proud of the choice I made. God, I hope I'm still around 20 years from now. That's intense.
I know. And her Instagram story right before, I don't know if you've had a chance to see that.
Probably have, but I know I didn't see
it was
story.
Almost like a prophesizing, that's not a word,
it's
thing
close enough.
too.
I think we got it.
I feel like she was such a real person. She was a little darkened at times, I don't know. She just wasn't ever fake about anything. Yeah. And if she was having an emotion, she was crying. And right before, it was the day before, she was bawling because she's like, it's like every one of my family members has died in this city that she was going to sing in. I mean, it was it's crazy. It gives you goosebumps. But I mean, you just have to, Bev told me, I have to tell you, she knew Jesus, and, I believe in that, and I will see her again someday.
Yeah, I mean, it's we were texting earlier, but to me, I have it's a circle of life, and it's a part of it, and death is, and it is interesting because we're we hate to talk about death, and it's very, but it is. I mean, it's going to happen to everyone, and it's going to happen to everyone that's around you, but it's still not fun,
especially when it's such a good person. And she was like my soul sister, but I got to hang out with her like 2 weeks before it happened. We played a show together, and we roomed together, and I got there, and she was like, I'm having trouble with my voice, shocker, because she'd always say that, because her and I both have like sensitive voices kind of, And for as much as we like to hang out and drink too. So I gave her my last steroid pill to help with her voice. And like the whole next week I was like, dang it, girl. I gave you my last steroid and I needed it. And it was just, I don't know. It was just a funny story. I know.
Yeah. That is interesting and it makes sense. Gosh, I can't even imagine your voice going out and I'm sure all the time. It's not like you can be like, oh, well, my voice is only like 75% today, so I'm going to cancel the show. I mean, people would go crazy.
Right. My voice is always 75%. It's like, if it's 100, I don't know what I would do. But it's the constant struggle. And I hate that because literally sleep and rest and water are the only things that can really fix it. And sometimes we just don't have time to sleep.
Right. Yeah. Or even trying to sleep like while driving. I mean, that's always
van sleep is not.
Yeah. You're better at that than I am. Back to your career. Do you have any regrets in your music career?
I kind of feel like when I look back at those years that I had my deal with Sony, I was running a band, playing 2 or 3 times a week. And then I would get on a plane and go to Nashville and I would write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, get on a plane Thursday, Friday, Saturday, And I was like, I couldn't do that now that I'm older than I was. But my regret is I think that I was not able to put 100% into both things.
Right.
Like when I was just so stretched thin. And I also didn't have a tour manager or a regular manager. I was doing everything myself.
Yeah.
So I regret I think sometimes you need to put 100% into something instead of 50% into 2 things.
And put one on hold probably.
Yeah. And I could have done that or should have, or I don't know. That I might regret just not trying.
Sure. That makes sense. And you might have another chance of that. So just something to think about if that opportunity that comes up is, I think it'd be really hard to put the live thing on hold for a minute, but it's one of those things. And maybe it could be 75-25 as opposed to 50-50. I think every week is, even just hear you say that you were doing that weekly, that's just hard. It
was so hard, and I had no home and I had no time, but then I was like, well, I can't lose all this momentum that I have in Texas. Well, it wasn't near the momentum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't near what I thought it was.
Still though, I totally, it totally makes sense. Yeah. So what's it like dating a musician on the road? How's that?
Like to date me?
Yes.
Well, it's really the hardest thing. I mean, imagine I wouldn't want my boyfriend in a bar every night. So it takes a special person to like have their girlfriend in a bar every night. And then sometimes like you literally just can't text back, or I go straight from the stage to merch, and merch might take 30 minutes. It might take 3 hours, or the bar owner might want to talk afterwards, and then I get done and it's 4 a.m. and you're sleeping. Like that's like, It's so tough. And it's taken me a long time to realize like, I just have to have somebody that's not jealous, and that's hard to find. But they're out there. Yeah.
And
it's found one. So
it's a lot of self-confidence, I'm sure.
Yeah. And having someone who's never home. I mean, I dated a really great guy, and after a year he was like, look, I can't, I loved him, and he was just like, I can't have you gone all the time. It was like just too hard for him. And I get that.
It makes sense, but it's like you still want to have the dream, still rocking and rolling, right?
Yeah.
So what does the future hold for Bree Bagwell?
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to do a little EP in Spanish, which is exciting. I'm going to do, I got the songs
like the full, like 5 songs.
Yeah.
Fun.
I know. I'm so excited because I sing in Spanish at my shows.
Yeah,
You've seen it. Yeah. And I've got a Christmas song coming out this year with my friend Sarah Hobbs.
Oh, great.
And I have, apparently, according to my producer, my next 2 records written. She's like, girl, we got to get on it. So I got more records coming. I have a couple people cutting my songs right now. So I think I got like 12 cuts out. So I'm going to keep pursuing the songwriting thing. Like you said, it just takes one, and it could be like a good paycheck one. But I'm already booking shows up into next year. I got my cover band on the side that's really killing it, called the Set 'em Up Joes. Me and my best friend Jody Booth have that. It's a little cover band.
I did. Okay, that
makes sense. So I'm adding all of these things into my life. Like I need more things to do, but I don't. But I did.
It's like, well, you have an idea, you might as well run with it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I
'Cause
think
you
there's so much pressure with like ticket sales and people liking your music, and it's very emotional. It's a roller coaster every week. And this cover band is like fun.
Just having a good time.
We're just having a blast, and it's been great.
Is the cover band just like weekends only?
We're only actually doing weekdays because I'm playing with my bands on the weekends. But we're getting like these private Christmas, like we just played one for I think like Chevron last Tuesday for more money than I'm getting for my person. You know, those cover bands, like they're very valuable if you do them right.
Well, and that's using your brand of Brie Bagwell music. You don't get that book. You don't book that gig without like playing your other shows either.
That's true. Well, thank you. Yeah.
So last question. How would you like to be remembered?
I mean, I always think about like, wow, she was such a, like if I had to do like another selfish one, I would say she was such a better songwriter than anybody realized. That would be like maybe all of these work tapes and demos of I don't care about anything, live records, whatever, anything, sponsorships. It would be like just my songwriting.
Yeah, I love it.
That would be it.
Anything else that you want to say before we sign off?
No, this has been so fun. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
We gotta hang out more often. We gotta do more fun stuff. So
I know I need to slow down, make more money, and hang out with Daran and Christine.
That's right, more revenue.
More revenue. Yes.
All right,
got
y'all.
it.
Thank you so much, Brie Bagwell, for being on the podcast.
So fun.